And we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Hi, we're getting lots of hellos in the chat. So happy to be here. We're very excited to be here. It is now 4 o'clock. We know our website is down, but we're super happy and grateful to actually be able to go through with our program. And we want to thank, we have a lot of people here with us today, so we just want to thank every single one of you for being here. So we'll get started. We'll officially get into it. And I want to welcome everybody to the Google Scholar Deep Dive program. Again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. My name is Nona, and I am one of Toronto Public Library's high school outreach librarians. And you see on screen with me here today, my colleague Laura, who is also our other high school outreach librarian at TPL. Laura, do you want to add anything?
Hello, we're so happy you found us, even with our website being down. So we're looking forward to tackling Google Scholar with all of you today.
Yes, yes, indeed. So just a few housekeeping notes. For this session, we have muted everybody's microphones, but we would love to hear from you guys. So please feel free to communicate as you already are in the chat. We will keep our eyes out on it throughout the program. Please be respectful in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can either submit it there, but there's also a ask a question area where you can also use to submit your questions. I just want to note that this program is being presented with live captioning. We have provided a link in the chat where you can access the live captioning. And there's also a couple of polls we've posted. We want to hear a little bit about you, you know, how you heard about us, which one of those communities you fit under. So please take a look and tell us a little bit about you through those polls. And lastly, note that this session is being recorded. So I would also like to acknowledge that Toronto Public Library is situated on the Indigenous land and Dishwit-One Spoon territory. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto Public Library gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. So as a reminder, our online program and chat room, they do follow our online and social media policy statements and our rules of conduct, which we have provided links at the very top, but I believe that they're not currently working, unfortunately, because our website is down. So again, super excited that you can join us despite all the difficulties going on. We just want to actually take this moment and thank you for your patience with everything that's going on with the website. I know it's been down all day. We're very aware of it. We're definitely working on it, and hopefully we can have it back up. So sorry for the inconvenience, but we definitely appreciate your patience with it all. So we're just going to get started with the program. Again, we're going to dive deep into Google Scholar today. Before we really get into how to use it and share some tips on how you can best use it, I'd like to share some background information about Google Scholar with you guys. So let me start by sharing my screen here and toggle my video as well, but I will be back shortly. See you guys very soon. So let me just start by sharing my screen here. And there we go. Google Scholar Deep Dive. So today we really want to look at how we can use it efficiently and effectively. But before, again, we get into that conversation, let's get to know Google Scholar a little bit more. And obviously, the best way of getting to know something is to look at its history. So Google Scholar was something that was actually launched in 2004. So it's been around for about 16 years now. And the idea of it was by two individuals whose names you can see on the slide here, Alex Verstack and Anurag Acharya. I hope I'm saying their names correctly. But basically who they were are, they were Google engineers who at the time were working on Google website, the main website. But then they came up with an idea that wanted to focus on allowing easier access to scientific knowledge. So their goal became to provide access to academic content more effectively and more efficiently to the scientific community. And that's basically where the idea of Google Scholar started. Now, since 2004, there's been lots of changes to how Google Scholar looks, how it can be accessed from the main part of Google. But currently, there's really no place you can go to on Google to find or get access to Google Scholar. And the best way to get to it is through this direct link on the slide here, which is scholar.google.com. If you just type that into your URL, or even if you type Google Scholar onto Google search engine, like, you'll be able to get to the website. It has become a little bit less accessible as I've started to read through its history for this presentation. It used to be like directly accessible from google.ca, but for some reason they've changed that. So scholar.google.com is the best way of getting to it. Now, in terms of it having competitors, there are other databases or other search engines on the internet that are aiming to provide the same type of product. And of course, their number one competitor is Microsoft. So Microsoft has a similar product to Google Scholar, which is called Microsoft Academic, oddly enough. And this has been something that's been coming on and off to market, but as of 2016, Microsoft finally established this engine, which is very similar in terms of how it works to Google Scholar. You know, you can access it for free. You don't necessarily need to create an account, and you don't need to pay for anything in order to start searching through its search engine. But besides Microsoft Academic, there's other types of resources, such as the two I've mentioned here, Web of Science, or Scopus, I believe is how you say it. Those are fee or subscription-based services that give you access to academic content, but then you would have to pay a fee in order to take advantage of it. So there's lots of competitors out there for them. But let's get to know Google Scholar a little bit more. Now, if you're wondering what is academic content or what this really means, Google unfortunately doesn't provide exact numbers as to how many documents or how many different websites they have access to. They tend to be very private about that kind of information. But there was a study done by scientometric researchers that back in, I believe this was 2018, and they were able to identify roughly, so this is not a true number, and I think since 2018, this has gone up significantly, but they estimated for there to be about 389 million different types of document that Google Scholar gives access to. Now, again, this could be very much more, especially now that we're looking at this information in 2021. But the one thing that they were able to identify about Google Scholar through this study is that they compared it to 12 other similar engines out there, search engines out there in the market. And it turns out Google Scholar, the one thing that we can say about it, it gives you access to the most number of resources. So here we go again, Google being number one. They're actually also achieving that with their scholarly content. Now, what is scholarly content? I actually took a screenshot directly from Google Scholar About Us page itself. So this is from their website directly. And you can see that their mission is to provide a simple way to broadly search for scholarly literature, right? So they want to give access in one place to articles, theses, books, abstract, court opinions even, and they really target academic publishers or professional societies, online repositories, universities, and other websites. So again, very broad, right? It's not like they're providing you a list of all of these different websites that they are like crawling through to find academic content. But you can see they're really trying to bring everything into one place. Now, the one thing I found really interesting was their slogan here, that the one pillar that they really stand on for this service, and it's stand on the shoulders of giants. And this is basically a metaphor and what it means is that they want to use the understanding of gained knowledge out there in order to make intellectual progress. So they're very big advocates of intellectual progress and also using the knowledge that's out there already and sharing it in a fast and efficient way. So I think Google Scholar, we can conclude it was built on a really good pillar, and they have a very good and pure mission. But again, just like everything else, it's not always perfect, and we'll definitely talk about that. So just like Google, Google Scholar also uses different elements to, they use different elements and algorithms in order to rank the results. So when it comes to ranking academic documents, they try to mimic, right? So that's really important. They try to mimic how researchers would choose a source, a document as scholarly. So they look at 4 different things. They look at the full text, they look at the author, they look at the publication, and they also look at the citation count. So again, with the author and the publication, they're really looking into who's writing this information and then who is approving this information. But over time, research has actually shown that Google Scholar, yes, they put some weight into these 4 different elements, but they actually put the most weight into citation count. And that's why I have a little star here. And if you have ever done a search on Google Scholar, if you haven't, don't worry, we will definitely show you today. You'll notice that the top results usually tend to have the highest citation counts, right? So that's where we kind of notice that citation count gets more weight than all of these 3 other elements. Okay, so that's one very important note to know about Google Scholar. So after learning a little bit about it, how should we look at it in terms of its pros and cons for research? So obviously, let's talk about pros. We always want to start on a positive note, right? It is free, it is easy, it is very powerful, just like Google, right? It's accessible to anybody as long as you have an internet, a computer, you're good to go. And it's super easy. You just go to the website. You don't even need to identify yourself, and you don't need to provide a name. They don't need to see your credit score, none of that stuff. You can easily access it. And it's really powerful because they want to bring all this information into one place. But there's some weaknesses and some cons that I think we all should know about before we start using it. And the first one is not all information is accessible or free. So that's really, really important to know. There was a 2014 study that was done that estimated that almost 90% of all scholarly documents on the web were found by Google. So they were able to crawl and index 90% of the academic content out there. So as much as they promote themselves as a place to find all information, in actuality, they're not reaching everything or absolutely everything that's out there in the web. And then there was another study done that found that about 40 to 60%, right? So it's a large range. And again, Google doesn't provide this information and people have to go and dig for it. So about 40 to 60% of all the articles that you find on Google Scholar are actually accessible fully for free from Google. The rest of it, what you'll come across is a paywall, right? So yes, you will find it, but you actually won't be able to get to the full text if you just click on the link. You'll either have to subscribe to something or you have to pay for something in order to be able to get your hands on it, or you can go to your local library and see if you can get it for free. But we'll definitely talk about that more. But that's a huge barrier, right? Because they're saying that they want to give access to this information, but unfortunately, it's not free almost half the time. So the second point is that there's too much weight on citation count. So I briefly mentioned this before in the algorithm ranking section, but why this is important is because of 2 things, right? So when you are searching for specific keywords, there's content that'll show up at the top that has the highest citation count. So they've been cited by other journals the most, right? So they'll always be in the top position. So there's a phenomenon known as the Google Scholar effect. And this phenomena is when researchers tend to gravitate more towards those results. So the results that show up at the very top, because they're seeing it as credible, they're seeing it as quality information. And they think because it's been cited a lot, that they should just automatically use that as a valid place to get their information from. So there's a little bit of misconception. And what tends to happen with researchers is they don't actually dig to see what other kinds of information is out there, because they always tend to go for the first few results. We see that problem with Google, but we're also seeing that problem with Google Scholar, right? So the point today is to make sure that we're not just opting out for those top results, but that we actually try to go further, go to second page, go to third page, and see what else is showing up based on the keywords that we're using onto Google Scholar. Another problem with having too much weight on citation counts is that there's actually been studies done that show that Google Scholar is very vulnerable to spam. And there's been case studies where people were actually able to manipulate the citation counts and make them inaccurate by just, putting the wrong information out there. So Google Scholar is very vulnerable. And there was actually a study done by University of California, Berkeley, that they were able to demonstrate the manipulation of these numbers. So very scary, right? Like we don't fully just want to rely on that, especially now knowing that it can be easily manipulated by a third party. The third and last con when it comes to Google Scholar is predatory journals. So in the scientific community, predatory journals have really started to pollute, is how they really view it. They're starting to pollute the global scientific record. And what predatory journals are, they focus on pseudoscience. So what pseudoscience is, it's basically information that's being put out there, but it's not accepted or it's not presented based on scientific methods. So it's not accepted by the scientific community, but Google Scholar actually gives you access to these journals. Now, it's not accepted by the scientific community, and I think every user should know that about Google Scholar, whether they do this intentionally to, under the notion of democracy, or they genuinely just aren't even aware that these journals are being indexed as part of their results. I think anyone who uses it should be aware that you can also come across this type of science, which is known as pseudoscience. So just a few pros and cons for all of us to be aware of. Now, with that being said, who should use it? And I obviously like to, talk about how good it is to use and not good, and why it's not good, or what some of its weaknesses are, because we should all be aware of the type of product it is. It's obviously not perfect. It has its strengths and weaknesses. And in terms of who can use it, it's really anyone who's doing research. We have some people here with us who are high school students. We have some parents. We have some teachers. We have some academic researchers. Really, as long as you need information or you need some kind of research resources, it's a really good place to go and start. And again, it is one of the largest, it is the largest databases out there, especially for academic content. But I think it's really important, one, to understand it, but also really understand how you can manipulate it as a user to make it work best for you, which is why we have our next part of our presentation, which Laura will take over now. And she wants to show you and share some tips and tricks on how you can best use Google Scholar. So I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you so much. I'm just toggling my video back on, so hopefully you'll be able to see me in a minute. And so I think it was really important for us to have that kind of theoretical background on why Google Scholar was created and some of the issues and controversies potentially associated with it. So thank you so much, Nona, for providing that to us. And now I'm going to kind of explore Google Scholar with you and focus on the practical side. Okay, so again, just like Nona did, I'm going to share my screen and toggle my video again, so you won't see me, but I'm here. And Nona's going to take over monitoring the chat and the ask a question section if there's anything that you want clarified or anything like that, okay? So we're going to do 2 basic sample searches together in Google Scholar, geared towards the work that Nona and I do in high school. So even if you're not in high school, it's definitely applicable. It'll explain kind of some of the ins and outs of Google Scholar. But the examples we're going to use are ones we've used in high schools across Toronto with high school students. So that's kind of our basis for how we're coming at Google Scholar. And hopefully we'll be able, through those 2 search samples, to really get a feel for how Google Scholar works, how the results are presented, and some strategies to use it most effectively. So again, I'm going to toggle my video and share my screen so you can see my Google Scholar searches. And so the first thing I want to show you is the Google Scholar page, right? And so Nona put the address, and it's in the chat, to get to this site directly. I mentioned in the chat that I usually just end up Googling Google Scholar to get me to this page. But this is what the standard Google Scholar search engine page looks like. And it looks and feels very much like Google, which makes sense because I like to think of it as a natural extension for more serious academic work from the traditional Google search engine that we use in our everyday lives. And so front and center is the big search bar, which is where we're going to plug in our search terms. And there are two options that you can select for Google Scholar to search, articles or case law. For most of us doing research, and definitely for high school students that Nona and I work with, we tend to stick to the article section. Case law would be very specific for people in law school, people researching legal cases, that sort of thing. Articles is definitely the broader search part to Google Scholar. And then again, right here is the lovely tagline that Nona was talking about, stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Which just reaffirms that they're trying to give us access to that higher level scholarly information that's out there. This has been added, obviously, recently, the articles about COVID-19 and specific journals that they're pointing you to for high quality scientific information about COVID-19. That obviously was not there probably a year ago today, but it is standard now on Google Scholar when you come to the page, okay? So the first pretend search we're going to conduct, that we're pretending, right, we're in a high school class or some sort of university or research that we're doing, or a potential interest, right, of our own as a curious thinker, right? The pretend screen I'm going to share with you is a search for, one second, for the search terms. Let me stop sharing that screen and share my next one. For the search terms teens, social media, and loneliness. So kind of pretending we're in a social science class of some kind or our own interest, and we're researching the topic of social media impacts on teen loneliness, okay? And so I've plugged in those 4 search words, 3 search terms into Google Scholar, and this is what the search results screen looks like, okay? So at the top, it still gives me the keywords I plugged in. In the bulk of the screen is my search results, just like in traditional Google. And then on the side here is a very small limiter section, okay? And this is something that they've adopted in Google Scholar, which is great to see. It's prominent in many research databases as well. And what the limiter column or filter column allows me to do is take these 47,000 results and limit them either by date at this point, or to sort them either by relevance or by date. The default is to sort by relevance to my search terms. I can change it to sort by date if I want, okay? And so this is a pretty standard search result you would get if you do a Google Scholar search. And I'll just walk you through kind of how that result is organized. So the thing that is hyperlinked that we can click on is the title of the article, okay? Then underneath that, you have in green the line for the authors, the journal name, the date, and usually the publication, okay? And then you typically have 3 to 4 sentences pulled from some part of the article or website it's going to direct me to. And then below that, you have a star, a quotation symbol, the citation count, and a related articles link. Okay, related articles will just take you to articles that are related to this article more specifically. So if I click on related articles, it's going to bring me to 101 results that Google Scholar's algorithms have decided are very much related to that first article, which popped up in my search results screen for teen social media and loneliness. Okay, the cited count just shows me that this article has been cited by 86 other articles, and you can click into that for more information about those articles that have cited it. The citation button or the quote button is actually very useful if you are producing a reference list or a works cited list. And if you click on it, it brings up the citations in a variety of the most popular styles, MLA, APA, Chicago, etc., for that specific article Google's providing you with. And the star basically saves or highlights this article in your profile or library. So over on the side here, you can see in the corner, there's a section that says My Library. And if I star an article, if I click the article, it gets saved to my library, which means then when I come back to Google Scholar and click on My Library, there's a refined list of articles that I've pre-selected, right, as potentially being useful for my research. Okay, so I have selected the first one and the third one. You can see the stars are shaded in now, meaning that those two are part of my library. And if you click on My Library, you can see those two articles as well as another one that I've previously added to my library. Okay. And all you have to do is click into My Library to see those starred results that you've kind of selected as being useful. Okay. Now, a quick scan of the page shows me that some of the results have an added link over to the side here. And that link is actually very important in terms of accessibility, which Nona was talking about. About 40 to 60% of the documents or articles that Google Scholar finds are actually free and accessible, right? Or the other way around. And the other half, basically, you hit that paywall. And so what we found by just using Google Scholar quite a bit is that whenever there is this link over to the side, there's a 90% chance that you do have full and complete access for free through the Google Scholar platform. What we've found then on the other side is where that link is not apparent. So for example, for the first and second and fourth result, there's a 90% chance you will hit that paywall, that it will not give you free and complete access to that article. Okay. So that's something that can be really helpful to notice right away as you're scanning or skimming through the page results, especially if you're not able to get behind the paywall. It's very important that you don't necessarily almost waste your time on results that you're not going to have that full access for, and then you can zero in on the ones with that additional link off to the side where you know you will most likely have that full and complete access. So I'm going to show you what full complete access looks like in Google Scholar and where hitting that paywall looks like, okay? So we'll start with looking at a full access result. So that would be the third one here, which the article is entitled No More FOMO, Limiting Social Media Decreases Loneliness and Depression. Okay, and it's from the Journal of Social and Clinical Something. It's cut off, and it's from 2018, right? We can see all that right here from the search results screen. So if I click into that result, it's going to bring me to the publisher's website. In this case, it's Guilford Press Periodicals. And it gives me a little bit more information about where this document is coming from. It gives me the full name of the journal now, which is the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology. It gives me the volume and issue number as well as the date. It's going to give me right here the abstract, which is great. An abstract is really just the fancy word for summary of the article, so I can know if this is actually useful for my research before I decide to read the whole article. Okay, and then it's going to give me right here the access to the PDF if I want it for the full article on No More FOMO. Okay, so if I click PDF, I would think at this point that the article would load, but it's telling me I have to purchase it. It's telling me that there's a paywall. But if we go back to the search results screen, this result had a little link at the side. Okay, so I really want to emphasize to student researchers that are out there, you may click on the direct link in the results screen here and think you've hit a paywall when you may actually not if you click on this link instead. So this time I'm going to click on the PDF here. We're going to cross our fingers that it's going to give me access. Maybe it won't. Doesn't look like it's going to right now, unfortunately. Click again on the PDF. And it's not giving me access. Sorry about that. So that's a good example of it not working out. And similar to the first one up here, where there is no link, it will not give me full access. Okay, so if we click again on this one that we were just in, I'll show you and go into detail about what it looks like when I'm trying to get access. It says, I have the option to log in with an account like Nona was talking about, or to log in with an institution. So an institution in this case refers to a public library, like potentially the Toronto Public Library, or a university college library that has access to these things, okay? Or if I don't have the login option, I can purchase access to this article, okay? The ability to save it would cost me $35, and the ability to purchase it for 24 hours only would cost me $25. So when Nona was going through some of the limitations of Google Scholar, some of the cons, as she called them, what she was referring to is this, right? You think you have access to stuff because you're able to conduct the search for free in Google Scholar, but really it's only giving you partial access to the abstract or summary. And this can be very frustrating for any researcher, right? But especially for a student researcher in high school or university or college, especially if you found an article that really speaks to the assignment you're writing, right? You hit that paywall, you're not going to pay the money, right? For whatever reason, and then you feel kind of out of luck, right? And so this is where we would suggest trying your local library and the research databases. And part of our original presentation was to show you how to access those. Unfortunately, our website's down, as we all know. So we're not able to show you exactly how to go to get behind that paywall in some cases through your public library. But it just highlights some of the limitations, again, of Google Scholar. Okay, let's see if this one is nicer to us. If I click, so this one is called Adolescent Social Media Use and Mental Health from Adolescent and Parent Perspectives. I'm going to click on the PDF link for the article. If it was on topic for me, and my computer is just slowly loading. And you can see here, it's given me full access to the article as a PDF. Okay, so the abstract is there along with the full 11-page article. Okay, so really keep in mind that on this page alone, the first search results screen that I did for my keywords, teen, social media, and loneliness, out of the 10-ish results I got, only 4 of them have that link on the side. And so far, one of those hasn't even worked. So to Nona's point about the study she was referring to, less than half of these I have full and complete access to, okay, which can be, again, frustrating if we're looking for open source information for our research or our interest, okay? So if we look at one, for example, the first one, another example of where you're hit a paywall, this is less in-person social interaction with peers among US adolescents in the 21st century and links to loneliness. So it's from a different publisher, right? So it's taken me to a different publisher's page. It's given me all that same information though. The volume and issue number, the full name of the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, the authors that have written for it, and what, in this case, university they have affiliation to, and it's given me that abstract. What it's not giving me is the full access. And in this case, it's blocking my access. It says my access is locked, and I either have to log in with an institutional account, like a public library, or purchase the article, just like the past one was saying, okay? My suggestion for anyone here who is a Toronto Public Library card holder is to pay attention, if you're using Google Scholar, to the publisher information, okay? We have 3 kind of broad academic databases that we subscribe to at the Toronto Public Library. And Nona can put their names in the chat for you to check out when our website comes back online. They are Academic OneFile, JSTOR, and Sage Journals, right? Those are the names of the academic databases. And in this case, it points me that this is covered in Sage Journals. So as a Toronto Public Library card holder, it indicates to me that I might have access to this full article with my Toronto Public Library card and the website. Okay, and going to the Toronto Public Library website when it returns to being working again. Okay, so that's one tip just from a Toronto Public Library librarian to all of you. Pay attention in Google Scholar. You might go to Google Scholar because it's easy to use and navigate. But if you are hitting that paywall for an article you are interested in, pay attention to the publishing information and check it against those 3 big databases that we have at the Toronto Public Library. Again, Academic OneFile, JSTOR, or Sage Journals. And in this case, I can see right away that this is the Sage Journal publisher database, and I have a good chance of being able to access this full article there. Okay, so keep that in mind as a handy trick to use your free Toronto Public Library card to get behind that paywall. Okay, so our initial search for teens, social media, and loneliness brought back mostly article results. Okay, but there's another type of result that often comes up in Google Scholar that I want to make sure you're aware of. And again, aware of the limitations and what it can potentially provide. Okay, so the next pretend search I'm going to do is for a grade 10 science class or a grade 11 or 12 science class, really for anyone who's kind of interested in science or in the environment or the world. Just give me a second. Don't want to tunnel. And it's going to be a search for climate change. Sorry, hi, I'm back. I'm just going to share my screen again. And so this search, instead of typing in teens, social media, and loneliness into Google Scholar, I just typed in climate change. Okay. And so again, the search result looks very similar. That same filter or limiter column is here on the side. The results are organized in the same way, with a few of them having that link right at the side that I can access and go into. But what you might notice is that the 4th result, right before the title, says the word book, as does the 6th result and the 8th result. So for some things you're searching for, more books or chapters from books might come up in your search results screen. We didn't see that with the social media search that we did first. Okay, and so book results are very different than article results, and we'll go into one to see exactly what they look like. And they can be even less useful for your research, unfortunately. So if I click on the first book result that comes up, which is Avoiding Dangerous Climate Change, if I click into this result, it's going to show me the Google Books version, the Google Books ebook, right, of this book, Avoiding Dangerous Climate Change. And so on the side, it tells me where it alerts me to where I can get the print book, gives me some links to purchase it. It alerts me that I can perhaps find it in a library, which is lovely. And then it gives me, the editor of the book, kind of the cover of the book, what it looks like. But if we look at what it's actually providing us in the bulk of the screen from the actual book, it's not very much. And along the side here, you can see the shaded parts are the parts that are going to be available, and the parts that aren't are not. Okay, so it's only given me 9 kind of pages out of this, what I'm assuming is a big honkin' book on climate change, that I can access and read. So one of them is the first page here in chapter 11 of the book, Impacts of Climate Change, right? And as I scroll through, you can see it breaks the text and says pages 95 to 107 are not shown in this preview. Because again, this is just a free preview. I can purchase the book if I want, or as it's directed me to try and find it in a library if I'm inclined to get a print copy, but it's not going to give me for free the full book. Okay? It's going to give me select pages that may or may not be useful for my research, keeping in mind the context for some of the information might be lost as pages disappear, right? Or are not shown. Okay, so just be mindful that the book results in Google are rarely ever full access to the ebook. It's limited access. with pages missing, right? So you can still navigate through and access those specific pages, but usually the bulk of the book has been kind of withheld, right? So at this point, if I really wanted this book, Avoiding Dangerous Climate Change, if I thought it might be useful for my research, I have the ability to purchase it, or in better times when our website is working, search the Toronto Public Library website to see if we had a copy, right? And then I could access it with my Toronto Public Library card at that point if I was interested. Okay, so we really want to make sure that you understand, as great as Google Scholar is to providing you content and information, there are some limitations, and the paywall is probably the most initially frustrating and the most obvious complication you can run into as a researcher, as a student, as someone coming here for more academic or scholarly information. We have noticed within the last 5 years at least that the amount of open access content in Google Scholar has increased, which is great to see, but it also means that there's still stuff, as we're seeing, behind that paywall. So I want to just dive into the My Library function a little bit more with you. So if we click into it, you can see I have 3 articles that I've highlighted, and I've also added a label to them. So you have the opportunity, if you click into one of them, to edit, delete, of course, export that article, or add a label. And so I've added pretend labels. They're very hard to see. They're kind of shaded in gray here, with course codes. So for example, if I was a high school student or a university or college student and I was doing my research for multiple courses, I have the ability in My Library to label. So this is my science course code, and these 2 articles are for my World and Change course that I'm taking, right? So that I know this is where I can find those articles. In My Library, you can see if I click, I just want to see the articles for that one course, it's going to just pull up those 2 articles. So it's a way for me as a researcher, as a student, to organize the content I'm using, the articles I'm using, and it can be a really helpful built-in tool that Google Scholar provides to keep you organized when you're accessing articles. For some projects or assignments or interests, you may have multiple articles kind of flagged like this in your library. So being able to label and organize them that way can be helpful to keep on track and not kind of be overwhelmed by what you've put in the library. Okay, so that's one suggestion I have, is to make use of the My Library, and importantly to add those labels if they're helpful for you, to kind of keep track of different articles for different subjects. The other thing that we'll notice in a Google search, in a Google Scholar search result, is this create alert function here. Okay, with it has the envelope indicating email, and then it says the words create alert. If you are working on an extended research project, either something you're taking a course for a full year, or your interest, of course, in the topic just as a curious, intelligent thinker is long lasting, you can create an alert where Google Scholar will email you when new articles or book chapters or whatever come out on your topic. Okay, so you would simply click create alert. You put in your search term. So this one is for climate change, your email address, and you select create alert. An email will be sent to you informing you that you've created that alert with Google Scholar, and then emails will be sent with follow-up new additions. So new publications, new articles that have come up on that topic. So again, this is most useful if you're doing extended research. If you have the project due, next week or next month even, creating an alert might not be the most effective way. There might not be that much published in the week or so that you have to do your research. But if you are taking a full year course, or again, if it's just an interest of yours that you want to stay up to date with on the academic research being written on it, it's not a bad thing to take advantage of the alert and be notified when new research pops up on that topic. Okay, so I highly recommend My Library and the Create Alert if it makes sense for your particular interest or research as options to use within the Google Scholar platform. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And at this point, we were going to show you our databases on the Toronto Public Library website that are similar in terms of content to the Google Scholar academic resources you can find, but you're behind the paywall with your library card. And again, I'm sure Nona already put them in. And it's Academic OneFile, JSTOR, and Sage Journals are our three most broad academic databases that we have. We have a whole host of other ones that are available for free with your Toronto Public Library card, but those are the three that we were going to focus on today with you. So I highly recommend, once our website's back up, if you are a student researcher, if you are interested in academic publishing or scholarly work on specific topics, you check out those databases at your leisure and see kind of how they compare to Google Scholar. And remember, when you are using Google Scholar, if you see most often Sage Journals as a name and you hit a paywall, remember to check in with your library card and our database on our website to see if you can get behind that paywall. Okay. Now, we have some time left because we're unable to access the website, unfortunately, and we apologize. So I see some questions have been asked in the chat, but if there's other questions, anything you want either of us to go over again, anything like that, we're happy to devote the next 10 minutes to kind of working through any things you might have. Okay, Nona, predatory journals. The heading.
See, for predatory journals, the heading might be stepping on the toes of.
I think being sarcastic. Are they being sarcastic? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. I'll leave that one to you, Nona.
Mark, if you can clarify, if it's a comment, note it.
Yeah, it might have just been like a comment, like sharing his thoughts or their thoughts, but yeah. Great. Did another question come in?
There's a question by Leslie, which is a good question. Could you give a general description of each of the two databases?
So out of the big three, I can definitely do that. Otherwise, there's about 80 of them, and I don't think we have time for that. But of the big three that I was talking about, their coverage in terms of content overlaps quite a bit in terms of subject matter. So both Academic OneFile and Sage Journals have a strong science and social science focus in terms of their coverage, and JSTOR as well has social science, but also has a stronger humanities focus. So for specific projects and subjects that Nona and I work with in high schools, we definitely recommend them for social studies classes, law classes, politics, biology, history in some cases, philosophy, right? They kind of fit the bill because they are very broad in their coverage for all kind of those academic research projects you might be doing. So yeah, I wish I could show you the website. I do. When you click on our website, under ebooks and online content heading, there's a tab that says academic research and articles, I believe is the heading. Online content and articles, something like that. And when you click on it, it highlights what we call our top 3 picks for databases. And it highlights Academic OneFile, JSTOR, and Sage Journals as our top recommendations specifically for students. So for students, that could be, grade 11 and 12 high school students. It could be college and university students. Those are the 3 that we've identified as being the most useful, again, in that broad coverage of what people are researching. But we do have other databases. I wouldn't necessarily call them smaller databases. Some of them are more subject specific. Like, for example, Biography and Context is a database we have that focuses on people, right? Biographies and information on famous people throughout history. We also have the Globe and Mail Historical Archive, as well as the Toronto Star Historical Archive, which focus on newspapers, right? For the past 100 years that you can access. So the other ones that we have can be more useful for specific research or a specific topic or subject. The 3 broadest ones we have at this higher academic level, like Any other questions? Okay, so they got the joke. Perfect. That's great. Any other questions? Things you want us to clarify? I'm wondering if any of you have had experience with Google Scholar in your own research or stuff where you have hit that paywall and it's been frustrating. I know when we talk to high school students, oftentimes they'll say that that's a big frustration for them. And sometimes high school students leave their research to the last minute. So you can understand why that would be a big frustration. But I'm wondering if you want to put in the chat if you've had positive experiences with Google Scholar, negative ones, a mixed bag. We'd love to hear kind of your reflections if you've used it in the past already. Or if this was your first introduction, we hope we kind of walked you through some of the structure of it and how it might be useful for you. No responses? Okay, that's fine. Just always interesting to kind of hear how other people interact with the service that we're talking about. So that's great. New to Google Scholar. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So next time you have something to do. Yeah, I know. Not just high school. That's true. We're all guilty of that, right? For sure.
University.
Right? Yeah. Work, whatever. It all, you know.
Work.
So if you're new to Google Scholar and you're planning to test it out either for your personal interests or for a school assignment or that sort of thing, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, I haven't used it yet. Okay, maybe you will, right? You'll dip into it. A lot of people like to use it as their next step from using Google because the results it gives you are vastly different, right? It doesn't give you website results, as we saw. It gives you articles and book chapters. And so that does mean you're looking for that higher level research into the topic, right? So usually in our experience, grade 11 and 12s are sometimes ready to start that academic journey or sometimes university and college, right? It really depends on the requirements of the assignment and the student's interest. But it's a good first step because the platform is so easily recognizable, right? We all know how to use and access Google. And so it's a natural next step if we're looking for that higher level information to just tap into something that Google produces, right? Google Scholar in this case. But it's not to discount the value and importance of those research databases like the ones Toronto Public Library or academic libraries at university and colleges use. So it's the more resources you have at your fingertips, the better. And we're lucky in Toronto with the Toronto Public Library, right? We have our free access to those databases as well as this platform of Google Scholar. Yeah, and for medical stuff, makes complete sense that you would want that higher level scholarly scientific information, right, even if it's just for your personal interest or knowledge. So that's a great example of why someone other than a student researcher would use Google Scholar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Leslie.
Yeah, for sure. Any final questions, thoughts, comments to share with us? We'd love to hear them. Just give it another minute or so to see if anything comes in. And again, we apologize about the website. Graphic design, see there? Yeah, so obviously not just medical, right? It's kind of neat, right, to see the difference in a search result from Google and Google Scholar for the topic. And depending on your information need at that moment, one is better than the other, right, in that moment. So it is valuable to have that. And know how to access and navigate through it a bit. It's great. Graphic design.
Yeah, I think when I was just like trying to look into the history of Google Scholar too for this presentation, like learning that it gives you access to 90% of scholarly journals out there or anything that's being published, I think it's pretty powerful. And I'm pretty sure, like, as Google is, working to better their access to information, I'm sure this is just going to improve since, since 2014, which is when I found that study from. So I'm sure it's gotten a lot better over the years and they're going to close that gap even more. So I think, yeah, all in all, it's a very impressive product to have, right? It's just we got to make sure we're using it right, and we're not just like using the first 3 or 4 things that are showing up, which can be very intriguing based on the algorithms.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, when we work with high school students specifically, we love to use the concept of next step, right? Because sometimes that's exactly what they're ready for, and it does give them a taste of that higher level information. And to your point, just reading the abstract alone will let you know if it's right for you, if it's too advanced, that sort of thing. So it's a good natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. Do you want to commit to it or not?
Right. Do I want to take the time to read 14 more pages, or is the abstract enough? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, geez. Fun to do research.
Any last questions or comments? Thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoyed it. You got some useful tips or ideas or an intro to Google Scholar from it. And we're happy to hear any feedback. I saw you put the email, right, Nona?
Yes.
Yes. So that's the email if you have any feedback.
Yeah. Let us know. And also there's always the contact us section on our website that you guys can always send us an email or give us a ring. Again, I was trying to find that information and I realized I don't have it. So just email us at teens@tpl.ca.
Yeah. We actually see those emails, so we're the people you're emailing. So we'd appreciate that.
Yeah. And there were some questions about what if I need help with databases, like what if I use it and I'm just like not getting it? That's totally okay. Send us an email. We'll try to help you out as much as we can there.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a learning curve.
Oh, for sure. That's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be discouraged.
Yes. Getting lots of appreciation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us today.
Yes. I think there's one, right? Is there still, Nona, one of our research sessions that is available? It was on the teen website.
I think it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Let me actually...
Mm-hmm.
I think YouTube's working today. So
yeah, YouTube is not affected. Hopefully. Cross our fingers. No, you're right. I think it's not affected. So we have a YouTube channel, which is what we're referencing. And the bulk of the TPL Teens YouTube channel has teen content, so done by our volunteers or programs. But there was, at least for a certain period of time, a link to one of our research sessions up there. Is it still there or has it been taken down?
It's still there. Fantastic. It's our workshop we did on online research skills.
Perfect.
So I'll just grab the...
Awesome.
Just posted it in the chat.
So that is an example. So it was a program we hosted like this one in the past. So it's focusing on online research skills, like Nona said, but it does give you an idea of what our outreach classes kind of look like in classes as well. So please check it out. Yeah. Yeah, I think the link's there. You found it. Perfect. Yeah.
And Michelle's asking, is this available in French as well as French educators and students for the research workshop? I don't believe we offer the research workshop in French. The only thing I think we can offer in French is like a general overview of TPL and some of our resources from my understanding. At this time, unfortunately, the research one is not available in French. Sorry, Michelle.
Is there another question that popped up or in my imagination?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, it was the same question. Perfect. She put it in the chat and there. Perfect. Thank you. We found it. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we're running out of time, which is nice. Email us anyways. That's fine. We'd love to hear from you, Leslie. Thank you so much for joining us again. I know Nona has some closing words to kind of cap off the session, so I'll let her take it away.
So, sorry, it's not ready there.
Sorry.
I just want to say this, that from Toronto Public Library, we would like to thank you guys for joining us today. And again, if you are interested in our future programs, on our website, under the programs tab, you'll be able to see some of our upcoming programs. Again, they can cover various topics, or such topics such as today's on research. And if you do have any, again, feedback about our program, please feel free to just directly let us know in the email that we provided, which is teens@tpl.ca. It's right in the chat mentioned earlier. We always are open to feedback and hear from you guys, or if there's any types of topics that you're interested in that we can work on and bring in the future, we're always happy to hear it. So please do it. Please reach out.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.